Would everybody please rise and join me in a pledge of allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Debbie, could you take roll, please?
Committeeman Maringolo.
Here.
Committeeman Ray.
Present.
Committeeman Schuler.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Dorsey.
Here.
And Mayor Paserchian.
Present. Okay, so first we have a couple of proclamations. That's, I feel like, what was the history of the world? The 10 Commandments. I found one, oh, here's the second proclamation. I'll just read the first line of this proclamation because it's pretty long, but everyone will get the point. Whereas Congress designated the third full week in March to be National Poison Prevention Week in 1961, and since then, this week has helped to raise national awareness of the dangers of potentially poisonous medicines, households, chemicals, and other substances. It's a pretty long proclamation. We're going to put it on the website. I think it's well worth a read. I was not aware that the third week of March, and it's been that way since 1961. So please have a read. It's not that long, and I think you will find it quite informative. We also have another proclamation. March is National Nutrition Month, and this one I will read. Whereas food is the substance by which life is sustained, and whereas the type, quality, and amount of food that individuals consume each day plays a vital role in their overall health and physical fitness, and whereas there is a need for continuing nutrition education and a wide-scale effort to enhance healthy eating practices. Now therefore, I, Guy Paserchian, Mayor of the Township of Long Hill, County of Morris, in the state of New Jersey, do hereby proclaim the month of March as National Nutrition Month in the Township of Long Hill, New Jersey, and I encourage all citizens to join the campaign and become concerned about their nutrition and the nutrition of others in the hope of achieving optimum health both for today and tomorrow. In witness whereof I have hereto set my hand and caused the great seal of the Township of Long Hill to be affixed on this, the 14th day of March, 2018. If I could, I'd like to call up Jessica and her team. I don't know if there are team members with her. Jessica works at ShopRite, and I will mention them later, but ShopRite was incredibly generous during the previous storms, both Riley and Quinn, and for that we thank ShopRite as well. So if I could come down and give you this proclamation, I'll come this way. Oh, of course. I never refuse it. Yeah, you can come up if you want.
Better.
I'm not great.
I know, she's worked there forever, right? You wanna come in the picture?
Yes. Yeah,
Everybody has
come
to
on. Come on. If we could be 5 minutes late to come out, you waited for us, so.
I know. Your shoes on?
And you can send it to Alex, right? Yes. Alex is the records, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for everything I've done here.
And thanks, you changed our yogurts for us, I heard.
Did you like them?
Oh, I love
Good.
Bye, Grace.
That's what I told her, good.
Thanks,
Good and
Jessica.
healthy.
Jessica.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, Grace.
Tell Bill and Dave I said thank you as
I
well,
will,
please.
thank you.
Okay, where was I? And don't think I didn't notice the two of you giggling over there when I was reading. Let's go with liaison reports. And Matt, since you had so much to say to Brendan,
First, I'd like to thank the Public Works Department and all the fire department personnel that were out there. I mean, I was getting the calls, it was nonstop calls for like 3 or 4 days. So get some rest, thank you. We have Director Sweeney here, I'm sure he's gonna address the crowd anyway. So I'll let him give the report. And he's got some announcements to make too, from what I'm told. So thank you all first responders, fire department, and the DPW for all the work you put in over the last week.
Thank you, Matt.
No report.
No report? Mr. Bruce?
I attended a redevelopment seminar and participated in a couple of sessions regarding the current redevelopment laws in New Jersey. Some interesting discussion about how the marijuana laws might affect us. It really all comes down to zoning, essentially. It looks like they're talking about 3 different classifications of licensing, and you can basically zone and allow for any or none. Grower, distributor, and retail type licenses. There was also discussion around the alcohol licenses, and there was some modest discussion about including new licenses into the redevelopment law, but there's no formal legislation in that regard. But there was a lot of popular interest in that. The main speaker was a person from Indianapolis who talked about the cultural trail that they have developed in Indianapolis, and essentially it's a bike and walking path around the city of Indianapolis, and it has turned out to be a very beneficial project for them, increasing property values as well as revitalizing many neighborhoods around Indianapolis. So very interesting stuff. I also attended emergency management meeting up at the county with our OEM director, Shane Daly. It was quite an interesting event. All the towns were represented, and it was a postmortem of last week's storms. The county is trying to collect data around storm damage so that they can submit it to the state in anticipation that FEMA declares it as a disaster and there's reimbursement. At this point, they haven't reached the threshold, the financial threshold that's required, but they are still collecting data. So, Nancy, I would encourage that you make sure that our data is submitted to the county expeditiously. Most of the comments that came out of that meeting were similar issues that we faced in communication, frustration in getting restored, and having lots of crews sitting around without the job orders or whatnot. Very similar complaints that we heard. And in addition, they also experienced communication problems with Verizon and Comcast because they did not have reps at the county OEM center during the crisis, whereas JCP&L had people on staff at the crisis center. So they were able to communicate a little bit more effectively with JCP&L than they were with the other utilities. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Mr. Cornell?
Nothing to report.
Okay, I'm sure we'll talk about it later in the meeting because DPW Director Tom Sweeney is here. But I wanted to just briefly, publicly thank an awful lot of people, and please forgive me if I forget somebody. Our emergency services volunteers and our police department during the 2 storms, Riley and Quinn, were unbelievable. And, and I think sometimes all of us, this committee as well, takes them for granted. And you have no idea how many hours they volunteered or worked. So I'll mention them. CERT, First Aid, Sterling Fire Company, Millington Fire Company, the Medical Reserve Corps, OEM, who, under the leadership and direction of Shane Daly, none of this could have happened. I mean, she went above and beyond, and anybody who knows her knows that's her MO. That's the way she addresses crises like these. The Red Cross, who was in town, Our DPW workers who were incredible, and I think the residents saw them out every day, just working their tails off. And for that, I thank DPW Director Tom Sweeney, who drove me around quite a bit. Lieutenant Naga drove me around quite a bit. I think with Brendan and his son Declan, we must have pushed out a dozen or 15 cars. The lieutenant, of course, I don't think told any of the members of the police department that one of the cars we pushed out was his. But I just thought it would be worth noting.
Nobody likes a snitch.
Brendan watched while the rest of us pushed the car out. Dr. Acevedo, who updated us continually about the schools. Lynn Beecraft, library director. The library board, which graciously had a quick meeting to pass a resolution to allow us to use the library as a warming center. ShopRite, All American Pizza, who donated food throughout. So there was, in fact, some hot food over at the warming centers, which were in multiple locations. We had a warming center here at Town Hall and in the library. We had a warming center at both fire companies. I know Millington School, obviously. And, Dr. Acevedo, thank you for opening up the schools for us there. So we had warming centers everywhere. And I'm going to go through, there's just a couple of people I want to thank personally. Larry Fast, who was continually 24/7 operating social media for us. And Larry, for those who don't know, had a very serious car accident about a month back. And still, he was ready anytime I called him, 24/7. Andrea, right here, came in, even though there were snow days, she came in to help to make sure we can have access to what we needed access to. The entire police department, Bob English, for anybody who knows Bob is the captain of the first aid squad. These guys go on 700-plus calls a year. That's almost 2 a day, and yet his crew was available repeatedly throughout because of a lot of potential health issues that we had. Linda Olmsted, who's the deputy OEM director, and she is a volunteer. I think worked 24 hours a day throughout that week. I want to thank the governor's office, who every day somebody from the governor's office called me to check if we needed anything. So Governor Murphy and your team, I do thank you. JCP&L, I know they're taking a lot of hits in the press, and I think a lot of it will be proved to be unwarranted. I don't think people realize the magnitude of the effort they put in. Senior management from JCP&L called or reached out to members of the Township Committee every day. Every day we were in constant contact with JCP&L. And we will talk about that later, maybe not today, but in the future meeting. The problem with trees is something that we're going to have to address because, and Tom and I, when we drove around, to my knowledge, 100% of the outages in Long Hill were caused by fallen trees. And JCP&L does not own those trees. We do, either the town or residents. And we all love the treescape in Long Hill. I do. For those who don't know, I'm on the Shade Tree Commission, and I've long fought for a stricter tree ordinance. But I think we have to be reasonable at some point and look at what it is and strike a balance with what we want our town to look like, but also understanding that with that comes the possibility of outages. And we've talked about it for 2 years. The emerald ash borer, and before that, the yellow, whatever it's called, that disease has weakened, has killed millions of ash trees from Ohio all the way out to us. The emerald ash borer is here now. And the problem with ash trees, and the estimate is half of the ash trees in the state of New Jersey will die. And the major problem with ash trees is when they die quickly and they dry quickly, meaning they become brittle and fall soon after dying. So we're going to have to address this, and there's a cost involved, especially for ash trees that are on township property. And for those who have ash trees, I have 8 or 9 of them, well, my wife has 8 or 9 of them because it's her house. So, I mean, this is a conversation that's going to be a much longer conversation. The main point I wanted to make is to thank everybody. Dave Hapchick from ShopRite donated food as well. I didn't mention him earlier. Pat McKinnon, who's a CERT member, donated refreshments for all the warming centers throughout. All American Pizza, they had their grand opening in the middle of this outage. And I regret, we were, as a township committee, were supposed to go to the grand opening, but we couldn't. We were having a town hall here. But still, he sent over pizzas for everybody to make sure the volunteers and the residents that were there were well fed. And I'll give you 2 heartwarming stories. When I was out with Lieutenant Naga and Brendan, and somehow we ended up, I don't even know what road it was. You couldn't recognize it in the middle of a storm. I don't know if it was Long Hill or Lacey or someplace up in there. And car after car was getting stuck. And that was the cars I referenced earlier. And all of a sudden, this woman comes up, and we said, "What are you doing out?" And she says, "Well, I'm a nurse. I'm coming home from the hospital. Does anybody need any help?" We said, "Why don't you go home?" And she said, "No, I want to help." And she stayed with us for a couple of hours, just trying to help. And ultimately, we couldn't get her car out. And you know, she stopped to help, and then her car had to stay where it was. Soon after that comes up a car with Connecticut plates, and we couldn't figure out why he was there. Well, what had happened is Route 78 had become closed because of some tractor trailers, and his GPS kept pushing him further and further north. And somehow north was Lacey because I guess he got pushed off a valley. And we got to talking, and, you know, "Where are you going?" He said, "Well, I'm going to Louisiana." "Oh, you're going to Louisiana? Why are you here?" He said, "Well, I got lost and because of the roads were closed." He goes, "I'm going down to Louisiana because I made a mistake 2 years ago. My girlfriend wanted to get married, and I didn't ask her. And so she moved to Louisiana, and he was driving to Louisiana to fix that mistake and ask her." So Cal from Connecticut, I guess it is, if you're watching.
Let's
Cal-
hope he's not watching.
Cal
Otherwise, it didn't work out.
Cal from Connecticut. I hope she said yes. And you know, it was one other person, but in the middle of all of it, you know, probably the person I want to thank, you know, personally the most is Ken Fulliger. Ken Fulliger is a former OEM director here, and for those who remember during Sandy, he's the one that got this town through that. He worked for JCP&L for 30 years. He's a former police officer in town. Nobody knows more about JCP&L and the service they provide in this town. And for those who weren't able to be here on Sunday or watch the town hall, please, it's replayed. I don't know, Dennis is not here right now, and I'm sure that tape is someplace on town. Watch that. You will understand how the electrical system works, why it's not as simple as some people, as all of us would like it to be, to put lines underground. It's not that simple. As he put it, electrical wires and rocks don't play well together. So a town like Long Hill is kind of not a suitable location in most places for underground wires. And where they are suitable, for example, where I live, it's underground wires. But I was out until noon on Monday. I'm proud to say we had a bet up here in the Township Committee who would be turned on last, and I won that bet. I was in the last 100 to get turned on. I think Bruce and Cornell and Brendan came up the day before. I don't know when Matt came up, but
I didn't go out.
Matt didn't go out, okay, well,
Everybody on Facebook said you were the first person in town to be restored.
yeah, well,
Sitting pretty in a bed, not doing anything.
yeah.
That was me who spread that rumor, guy. I'm sorry.
I focused on the pretty part. I think the person called me pretty, so that was
I
okay.
think it's also worthy to note that people should not be reading some of the garbage that's on Facebook because it is outright wrong. I mean, it's just blatantly wrong. So, you know, when you read that stuff, you know, take it with a grain of salt. These people who are generally commenting have no clue as to what they're talking about. So
In some cases, in some.
In most cases.
In most cases. And the one last one, I wanted to look it up. The last day when the shelter, I was at the shelter over at Millington School, and there was an older gentleman, and I mean a gentleman, and his wife and his daughter were there, and all of a sudden, he got a call, or somehow we realized his power had been turned on, and this was Sunday afternoon. And he came up to me, and almost with tears in his eyes, he thanked me when I didn't do anything. The Red Cross and the MRC and the CERT members were there. And he said, I'm almost sad my power came back on, because I love you guys. And you know, that was really, really touching. So Doug, and Doug may be watching. Cal, maybe not so much, unless he got turned down and he's driving back through Long Hill. But Doug, and I apologize, I forgot your wife's and daughter's name. Thank you. It's residents like you. And the last people I want to thank, most of all, are the residents of Long Hill. You know, we lived through Sandy together, and you were resilient, and when the governor's office called and JCP&L called, I told them, I said, Long Hill, we are resilient. Just give us the information, try to be as accurate as possible. Maybe we can fix that just a touch. But the residents of Long Hill Township once again rose to the occasion. When they were at the town halls, they were respectful, a little tired, cold, but they were always thankful. So to the residents, I thank you most of all. With that, we'll go to the consent agenda. All right, so I think we're going to add something, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Where, this will be additional resolution, what number will it be?
097.
097. Whereas the township entered into an extraordinary unspecifiable services agreement with Municipal Resources, Inc. of Meredith, New Hampshire on January 18, 2018 to conduct a fire department study/review, and whereas the need has arisen to expand the scope of that study to include a recent incident, now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Long Hill in the County of Morris, New Jersey, that it does hereby approve change order number 1 to the January 18th contract with Municipal Resources, Inc. to expand the scope of its study to include that recent incident at a cost of $3,000, bringing the total amount of the contract with the change order to $27,275.
That's added to our consent agenda?
Yes.
Jack, should I recuse myself from that one?
You could just abstain from that one.
Abstain from that one,
Yes.
And what was the number?
That is
097.
097.
197, thanks.
So can I have a motion? Unless there's...
I'll move Resolution 18-087 and 18-092 through 18-096 as stated in the agenda, as well as 18-097 as verbalized by Attorney Pigeon.
Second. Debbie?
Committeeman Morello,
Yes.
Committeeman Schuler,
Yes.
Committeeman Ray,
Yes, with abstaining from 18-097.
Deputy Mayor Dorsey.
Yes.
And Mayor Pasurkia.
Yes. Township of Long Hill, resolution number 18 dash, sorry about that. All right, this is first reading, introduction. Ordinance number 410-18, an ordinance concerning performance and maintenance guarantees and amending section 183 of the Township Land Use Ordinance entitled Performance and Maintenance Guarantees, Engineering Inspection Fees. Jack, is this something you will...
Yes, the state recently adopted an amendment to the MLUL with respect to performance and maintenance bonds, and there are significant changes. So our ordinance has to be amended to reflect those changes to the MLUL. It made a number, as I say, of significant changes, including the fact that it specifies the improvements that can be covered by the performance bond. It no longer allows for on-site improvements in the case of site plans. It does add, though, two things. One, a formal procedure for the issuance of temporary COs, which we've always done informally anyway. If it's winter time and the developer can't put a driveway in or landscaping, he gets a temporary CO and posts a smaller performance bond to cover that. The other thing that's been added is a safety and stabilization bond, which really protects the township, and that too has to be authorized by ordinance. So Debbie did distribute at Cornell's request a copy of the statute which highlights the changes, and I really just tracked those in drafting the ordinance. It will be scheduled for second reading, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Jack. Any questions, comments?
I'll move ordinance 410-18 as stated in the agenda upon first reading with second reading scheduled for April 11th.
Second.
Committeeman Maringo?
Yes.
Committeeman Ray?
Yes.
Committeeman Schuler?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Dorsey?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchian?
Yes. Okay, we do not have any discussion items, so now we'll jump into old business, new business. Yeah, no, I'm gonna get to it. Well, you know what, Tom, I apologize. You're here, and if we could, well, how did you want to do it?
Well, I thought it'd be easier for me to just get these done and then he can elaborate on them.
Is that, Tom, you want to do it in that way?
He wrote it for me.
Well, you know what, well, hold on a second. I think at least I should mention to the committee, or Nancy, would you want to read that first, and then we can,
Okay.
okay.
Everybody has been concerned about all of the branches that have fallen, and we've gotten a lot of questions at Town Hall about whether or not there was going to be a collection. So I would like to announce that there will be a branch pickup by our DPW for a 3-week period from March 19th to April 6th. But there are some very specific rules that the DPW director asked that you adhere to. In addition to the pickup, where our DPW will go around house to house and pick them up, curb to curb rather, branches and logs can be dropped off at the DPW facility during the week. That is at 1223 Valley Road in Sterling. They are open from Monday through Thursday, 6 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. On Fridays, 6 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. The rule is that it is for residents only, not for contractors. In addition, residents who hire contractors to remove trees and branches from their property should not have the contractors place that material at the curb. If you do hire a contractor, the contractor should haul away what they take down. So place your branches, logs, and tree stumps at the curbside. They should be stacked in neat piles parallel with the road because that allows for the equipment to pick them up faster. Please do not block the fire hydrants. Branches and logs can be any length. Actually, the longer the better because it allows them to be picked up easier. They can be storm-related tree parts only. Please don't use this as an opportunity to clean out your backyards. Old firewood piles and shrubbery will not be collected. And please note that it is the DPW, our Long Hill DPW, who will be collecting branches and logs. It will not be the garbage company. And there is no need to call the DPW for an appointment. They will just be going around town for those. It's a 3-week period, beginning on Monday. So there's no need to call. Just put your branches out by the curb. And when Director Schmidt comes up, if he has anything to add. I also wanted to that point, and to Committeeman Marangelo's point earlier, we have been asked for a preliminary damage assessment, and I just want to note that our DPW director has continually, since the beginning of the storm, maintained what his department's expenses were. He's reported them to OEM, and hopefully as we continue to clean up, we will be be able to have those costs reimbursed from FEMA if there is an actual declaration. I wanted to bring up garbage and recycling. After their power, people were concerned about their garbage and recycling. There is something on our website about this, but I'm just going to read it. And also, if you missed any of the information I gave about the branch cleanup, that will be on our website and Facebook and TV as well. If you did not have recycling or garbage picked up recently, missed recycling from last week in zones 2, 3, and 4 will be collected next Wednesday, the scheduled day, which is March 21st. If you have recycling and don't want to wait, you can drop it off at Public Works during regular hours that I read before. Any of the missed garbage in last week, there are various parts of town that were unreachable because of trees down or wires down. So there were some missed garbage pickups. Instead of having the garbage company go around yesterday and Monday and try and pick it up throughout the whole town, which would put them even further behind, it was decided that any missed garbage in any zone last week will be collected on their normal day this week. So we're already at Wednesday. Hopefully you've had your garbage out, but if you haven't and your regular pickup is Thursday or Friday, please put it out on Thursday or Friday.
Just a quick question, is the 2-can limit suspended?
That was my next sentence.
I can ask that.
The garbage company will collect more than the 2-can limit this week to pick up the balance of last week's missed stops. And because we recognize that there is probably more garbage for people who had to clean out your refrigerators and things. So that is also on our website and on Facebook, and I believe it's on TV as well. And the last thing that I wanted to bring up is last Thursday, there was a partial roof collapse at the abandoned house on the corner of Main and Valley. There is currently safety fencing surrounding the property. The gas main was turned off yesterday. An asbestos contractor will begin removing shingles tomorrow. Demolition permit was issued, and the house should be taken down by Friday or Monday at the latest. That's all I have.
So I mean, if we could, Tom was gracious enough to come this evening, and I know he's been working quite a lot. No, don't sit down. Since you're here, perhaps we can have some, maybe questions for Tom, or?
If I could, Mr. Mayor, one question. Sorry. The waiver of the can limit, that's cans, that we're not talking about a bulk pickup.
No, it's just garbage.
Normal
Right,
household garbage.
garbage, right.
Well, the next question, he might, Mr. Sweeney might be able to answer this, is what about the people that already got picked up this week? They still have too much for next week? Or people that missed the 2-can limit?
Say that again?
Okay. For example, my garbage is, they pick up, I don't know what days they pick up the garbage except for my own.
You're on a Tuesday pickup.
I know I'm on Tuesday
Yeah.
pickup, but
You
say,
got collected last week.
I did. I got collected Saturday or Friday. But let's say, for example, I didn't know I can put out more than 2 cans Tuesday, and I still have more than 2 cans next Tuesday because of this.
It's only this week.
All right,
We're,
this
we're,
week.
we're allowing the balance that was missed last week, and it was mostly zones 4 and 5 were really effective. Those are the zones they just couldn't get
And they
down.
pick
So,
up
so,
tomorrow?
so on tomorrow's pickup and Friday's pickup, that resident might have 4 cans out now, or 2 cans and 3 or 4 bags. They're gonna get it all,
Got it.
you know, and they were very receptive, the garbage company on
Is
that.
what's the worst 4 and 5? Is that Gillette?
You have Gillette, and then you have the whole north side of
I'm 4.
Millington.
And I'm
On 4.
Okay.
Yeah, Gillette is
I would
fine.
say, though, if they have additional garbage, they can always come down to Town Hall and get the bags. Right? We have bags.
Well, we
here.
don't want to,
Yeah.
the way I look, you don't want to charge a resident the bags because they weren't collected because of the storm.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So, but if they come down and say, listen, my garbage didn't get picked up, you know, case-by-case basis, I think Nancy
Yeah.
can handle that.
Sure. Yeah, we do have that option. But in this case,
Oh, that's a
the
good point.
garbage company is.
So in other words, just waive the fee, give them the bags?
Yeah.
Use
Okay.
it 2 weeks from now, too.
Well, you know, we can assume that 99.9% of residents are honorable.
Correct.
Tom, would you mind coming up? I mean, if this is on this topic, what's the question?
What about the residents who aren't watching tonight for tomorrow's pickup?
Well, I
We
mean,
did,
we
well,
sent out,
yeah, we did, we advertised on Facebook and on our website and on TV. So, I mean, that's the best we can do, really.
And that announcement went out Monday. It's been going all week.
and I was going to mention something about citizen alert later, so, I mean, we could touch upon that.
While you're up, maybe you can comment on the condition of the roads, the passability, the snow on the sidewalks, and, you know, those general issues.
Current conditions?
Yeah.
Current conditions are a lot better today than they were last Friday. Let me tell you that.
Next up.
Yes.
Captain Obvious.
No one knows more than me. You know, I was out on every road. Our crews are been clearing trees that were hanging in roadways and blocking roadways since the storm, and we've really we're making a lot of ground on that. All roads were plowed. There's not as many low wires that are hanging in the roadways, so they're a lot safer. Our crews were in Sunday with some big plows and a loader, widening the roads so the schools could get their buses down Monday. That was our big gain on that day. It's a tough deal because you're widening a road a couple days after a resident has cleared their driveways out, and then you're pushing that in, and we don't do that. We don't want to do that on purpose, but it happens, you know, and we upset some residents and we apologize, but our goal was to make the roads wider and safer. And a lot of that couldn't have been done until the weekend because there's just so many trees that were in the road and so many wires. It wasn't safe to do that. So we are in a lot better shape today than we were last week.
Can I ask you a question? I saw and these are your guidelines, and I'd spoken to mayors from other towns, and
Sure.
a lot of them said that they are limiting it to anything that the resident can hand carry to the curb.
Yeah.
I mean,
each
you're the
each
one-
town is different on their collection. You know, some like where I live in Clark, they have loaders with these big scissor buckets.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter. It's more they grab it and they stuff it into a dump truck.
I just don't want to jam.
Long Hill doesn't have that option. You know, we don't have that equipment. But we have a chipper and then we have an excavator, and similar to what we did in Sandy. And these recommendations are based on what we went through in Sandy. So longer branches parallel with the road are easy to load a chipper. Longer logs parallel to the road, we can grab with the excavator and load our truck. So bigger is better. It'll go very, very quickly. If the residents put it at the curb nice and neat, we will clean up this town very fast.
Okay, so it's not going to be.
Yeah, and I know it's a challenge. We're giving you a 3-week time frame to do it because there is still snow on the ground.
Right.
And it's going to be a challenge for residents to drag those branches across their lawn and before they can, get them cut up. This weekend is supposed to be a little warmer. I think of some people.
Spring's in 4 days. What?
Yeah. So I put 3 weeks. I think that's reasonable. We know we'll have to go down some streets a couple times over, because of the amount that's out there. But there's a lot of parts of the town that are in very good shape. There's a lot of parts of town that have no branches at all on
Where?
properties. Back up in Millington, Clover Hill Development, I went through there.
Really?
The knoll, I seen one branch on a tree. And then you have areas in Gillette that every street was impacted. And this storm was live trees, healthy trees that went down, and healthy branches that went down. I see what's coming in. I see what's out there. There's beautiful oaks that went down. These ash trees we're talking about, we know it's a problem. None of them went down. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's. Some of the oaks we saw them on Doherty, for example.
Of course.
What was that big tree up on Long Hill Road? Was that
Long Hill Road at 701 Mark was a red oak. It was probably 40 inches across.
Huge.
A beautiful, healthy tree. And the wind blew it off, and at the bottom of the root base was just not sufficient to hold it. And it's something you can't see from the road. You would never expect that.
Yeah, that was a monster tree.
It was a monster tree. And going back to Riley, that storm that hit us Friday, our department worked on that all weekend, and we had just gotten cleaned up on all the trees that went down from that storm Tuesday, right before the Wednesday storm hit. We had just caught our breath, and then that other storm hit, and that put us behind. on
Yeah, and
that, so-
I guess J.C. Bennett explained that the Riley storm was water, so the ground was wet, and that's
Of
how
course.
these oaks fall.
Right.
And then you end up with the,
And the weight load of all that snow in those trees is what was putting them down. I mean, our department Wednesday night in that storm was just getting attacked by trees coming down at all within a couple hours is when all that was happening, when we were trying to plow roads. And I told my foreman to put a chainsaw in each plow truck. We don't have so many saws, but because you're gonna have to cut your way out if you get trapped. And myself and Al Gallo, my foreman, were trapped up on Gates Avenue. We had trees in front of us and trees behind us that were falling.
Tom, you've been in this town forever. Where does this rank storm-wise?
This is in my top 5 as far as dangerous. And at one time, I was saying, please stop. And Lieutenant Naga knows. I was in the backhoe. I do this place. I run my operations out of here. I do first aid. And I was literally driving the backhoe, plowing, and wiping the windshield because the defroster just couldn't clear the glass because the snow was coming down so hard and so big. You just couldn't see. The visibility was very bad.
It was 2 inches an hour, and then at
2 to 3 inches an hour.
Yeah,
And it's very stressful on a plow driver. When you're plowing a road, especially up on all these hills that are dark, you can't even see the curb line, the edge of the road. You lose where you're going. The visibility is so bad, especially at night.
And that is,
So, I give my guys
8,800
credit.
residents that thank you and your team for
Sure,
what you did that.
sure. There was a lot of complaints that a lot of the snow wasn't plowed up to the mailboxes because it's curbside or rural collection for mail here. And yeah, we want to do that, but a storm like that was so heavy, the trucks just couldn't push it that far. There was points of that storm where you couldn't bring a big truck down the road because there was so many trees that were hanging low in wires. Now you're sending a small, like a pickup truck through there that doesn't have the power to push the road wide. That's what we're getting down to. So, thank God no one got hurt. It was a dangerous storm, but we got through it.
So, questions for Tom, or
No, thanks, Tom.
comments, or?
Thank you.
Just
Guys
thank,
did a great
please,
job.
thank your team.
Sure. This branch collection will go quick. 3 weeks should be enough for that.
And please, I know we said it, but please, to all residents, 99.9% of you honor this anyway, be fair about it. Don't start.
Of course.
Don't start cutting down trees that you wanted to get rid of and then bringing them down to the road.
Yeah, I understand. I see what's out there. It's not that much compared to the storms we've been through. Sandy was very big.
Even
It got very out of control with contractors that were putting stuff out the curb. I don't think I'm going to see this in this storm. And Branch Tober, they call it, or
Snowtober.
Snowtober, whatever you want to call it, was all branches on every street. This here are just pockets of areas. And our department now, thanks to you guys, has a lot more equipment since Sandy to handle this kind of stuff.
Thanks to the taxpayers.
Anytime. Yeah.
Tom, thank you. I think
Thank you.
go home, have a beer.
Get
Am I allowed to
get
say
some
that?
sleep.
Yes, we do.
Responsibly, have a beer.
Not while you're driving. The lieutenant's just there. We have old business, new business. No, I did want to mention, and I don't want to hear any groaning from my right. From the left will be okay. I was remiss. I didn't thank Verizon earlier. It's hard. If you don't have power, or I should say, internet, how are you watching this? But hopefully on your phones, and any residents that call you. We're at that point where, and Brendan, you know this, if anybody, for whatever reason, Brendan found 2 residents that haven't had Verizon since Riley.
Yeah.
Since Riley. Verizon, you still don't, well, I've got, would you mind, I can look up your address. So that's 3 residents don't have Verizon service, cable, internet, et cetera. Verizon was very responsive up on Carlson and Long Hill Road. They probably have been called, but whatever. I called them on Sunday night, late. He said, I will have somebody there the following morning, and they were. So I'm not promising they could fix one day. I don't know what the issue is.
Did come to my house, and they said that on Long Hill Road, one of their boxes got taken out by the large straight.
So that must be that's the
Yeah,
same.
It's the same thing.
Oh, so they have to
Yeah.
replace the box.
Yeah.
But you live downhill from,
All the way down the bottom.
is everybody in the neighborhood without it?
Well, some people have fires, so I don't know if I'm on copper line.
Okay. All right, and I'll report, I have your address, and I'll report that in the two. And anybody else, if you get any calls, just send them to me, because we'll go straight to Verizon. I forgot to thank Sterling Fire Company was out clearing the hydrants, and that, as we just heard, was a remarkable storm. And they did a tremendous job getting out the hydrants. If anybody sees a hydrant that's not been, for whatever reason it was missed, let us know. Or, you know what, if you can and you're able, take out a shovel and clear it, because it's for everybody's safety. Please, I beg people at the town hall, and I beg you again, please sign up for Citizens Alert. Those who had it have thanked everybody, you know, whether it's OEM Director Shane Daly, Linda Olmsted, everybody that was receiving these was thankful. They said they were excellent, they were not repetitive, it was new information. So it's our goal that all 2,800 residences and the people in them, because you can have multiple accounts. Please, please, please sign up for Citizens Alert. You know, I was on Facebook a lot. You know, there was the Passaic page, and then there's the official page. Ideally, we will drift over to the official page for official business. The people on the Passaic page, you know, they were just remarkably nice. They just wanted some information, so I engaged a little bit as best I could. You know, a lot of times I was out riding around with Tom or Lieutenant Naga. But most people were remarkably kind and polite. There were some feisty comments, some in a language, in a literary style with which I'm not familiar, but that's okay. But one person did mention something about the turf field back here, and I was glad, because I wanted to give an update on the turf field. Don't worry, if anybody wants to you want to take a 5-minute break? I wanted to give an update on the turf field, even back at the reorg, and it just slipped by. That field has worked out far better than any of us up here could have anticipated. And I spoke with Recreation Director Lisa Scanlon today. It essentially cost the taxpayers nothing, because the lights were paid for by a very generous woman. She passed away and she left the town in her will. So those lights were paid for by her. We have a rental contract, as everybody knows, with the high school oratory prep in Summit, which comes out to about $600,000 over 12 years. And the field is bringing in about $40,000 per year, in addition to the fees from oratory prep. That covers the cost of the field for the life of the field, which in theory is 12 years, but that's a modern technology out there, so it's probably going to last longer. And the real beauty of that is our recreational organizations, so you've got lacrosse, soccer, and field hockey, do not pay a dime in rental fees to use that field. Not a dime. I don't know another town anywhere that does not charge their recreational organizations a rental fee. So I did want to make that clear, and I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't realize it was bringing in that much in rental fees. So with that, oh my God, if we go right into announcements, I get to keep talking. That's good, right? There's an New Jersey American Water flushing schedule. It's scheduled throughout their service area. Oh,
After announcements.
yeah, I didn't forget you, Tom. No, don't worry.
No, you said Old New was coming up, and I guess it's after the announcements. No problem.
Okay. So New Jersey American Water has their hydrant flushing schedule, and it's posted wherever it's posted. But for Long Hill, that's what matters to us. It's May 14th to May 18th. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. There is a Lord. I won't read the whole thing. And this is something everybody's eagerly anticipating: the Parks and Rec annual Easter egg hunt, sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce at Matthew G. Canton Memorial Park is Saturday, May 24th, 10 a.m. Long Hill residents 8 and under. Brendan usually dresses up as an Easter bunny, so looking forward to that. March 31st, 10 a.m. is the rain date. I don't think I have any other announcements.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, if I could just add one. It was just when you mentioned eagerly anticipated events, it jogged my memory. On March 29th, the last Thursday of the month, Millington Fire Company is going to be holding a trivia night at the firehouse, starting at 7 o'clock. We'll serve snacks and refreshments. There'll be door prizes and a grand prize that's still to be announced. So space is obviously limited because it's going to be in the firehouse. So please sign up. You can do so on Facebook or send us an email.
Is that a team event or is it individual?
Teams are welcome. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. At this point, I would like to open up the meeting to the public for remarks, statements pertaining to any matter.
Yes,
The floor is yours, Tom.
Tom Grosskopf, Gillette. I watched last township meeting, the video on it, talking about the lights in the Gillette train station. And I'd like to clear up a few facts. One is, everybody was talking about the light on town property, which would just be facing the train station, the parking area, as maybe being intrusive to the people who live on Jersey Avenue. As of right now, there is a street light on the corner of Jersey Avenue, and on Mountain Avenue, there are street lights that face directly into the houses across the way from them, so 30, 40 feet. What I was suggesting is that we put it on the other side of Jersey Avenue, the train station side.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're 70 feet or more away from somebody's house, whoever's on there. There's 2 or 3 houses there. And it could be directed directly into the parking lot. My wife showed me a picture this morning when she went in, and it was pitch black. Couldn't see anything. Don't know if there's black ice, or when you come home at night, and if the parking lot is crowded and dark. Fortunately, it's staying lighter longer, but this is going to be a long-term thing to be resolved. As it stays, if you come home and it's dark, anybody who comes home, you say you come home around 7, I think you say. If there's somebody looking to do harm of some sort, and they're hiding between cars, you can't see them. You can't see them until they're on top of you, and then it's too late. You can't do anything about it. So I know there was talk about turning lights on and off, on and off. I think that happening every hour would drive me nuts. A light that's just on, you'll get used to it, and especially a light that's on that's facing away from you. If you look at the train station now, they have lights that are just pointed towards the train tracks and the walkway area. And you don't see those lights from 10 or 15 feet back. I mean, you see where they are, but they're not lighting up.
No, I know the area, but I don't know it at night because I don't park in that, and never have parked in that train station. The light that's on Jersey, how close is that? And I think Tom could probably help us out here. How close is that light to the house relative to where you're suggesting the light in the parking lot?
It's on their side of the street, of Jersey Avenue. It's on the corner. There's one on the corner, and then on Mountain Avenue, which kind of
Right.
buckets. It's actually shining. The street light shines into that person on the corner's house.
Would I be correct in saying that the proposed light is further from their house
Yes,
than the two
absolutely.
lights?
Yes. It's across the road over the barrier of land that we own. And it would be sitting there facing only the cars.
So, Tom's kind enough to stay. Look, we said go have a non-alcoholic beer, but you're still here.
To answer Tom's question, we've done some research on this a couple weeks ago. My proposed plan that I sent to JCP&L and New Jersey Transit was three lights in the parking lot on the south side of the lot, which is where the wooded area is, parallel with Jersey Avenue. These lights will be facing on the lot only. And it could be two, but we're suggesting three. New Jersey Transit has no money, so they're out. JCP&L was willing to meet with me. Rob Walton, Wednesday was our appointment.
You have something else to do?
So, we're gonna reschedule on that. But yeah, that's the plan. I know about the lighting he's talking about on Mountain Avenue, Jersey Avenue. This is gonna be very similar to what you see in the Millington train station lot, which is almost the same type of lot. Street lights on the backside of the
Okay.
wooded area on the parking lot.
Well,
It's just we're behind because of the
Oh,
storm.
So, and Tom's right, though, we did discuss on, off, shutting them off at
That wasn't
9.
my plan. It was.
That was,
Let all
was the Prince of Darkness, wasn't
I
it?
know. You mean 12.
Look, if there's no reason to have the lights on, turn them off, right? If at 2 o'clock in the morning.
But street lights are on.
1:30, I think is the, I would love to have a discussion about turning the street lights off at 2 o'clock in the morning.
You and
too.
Nick Platt, you want to remove them all.
I don't know if I can figure it out.
Why have, every time I drive by Valley Mall at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, it drives me, sorry, thank you, it drives me crazy because the lights are on, nobody's in there. Right, you got the lights on, light pollution, you're wasting electric. I get the safety factor, right, and there's a time to turn them on. But if you have no reason to have the lights on, why leave them
Right,
on?
and I get your point. You'd like this, street lights to be turned off at midnight, but they're not. So, I
understood.
mean, there would be no reason to turn these lights off either,
I wouldn't think so.
Well,
because it's the same concept.
Unless you can tell me when there's gonna be somebody bad standing there, or.
Well, but you're,
Could we just
but
pick
why,
a pen
but
and-
why would you be in the train station at 2 o'clock in the morning? There's no trains coming in or out. The last train is at 1:30. For what purpose would anyone concerned about
Well, maybe.
public safety be
maybe-
going into the
Sometimes
train
guys
station?
gotta snowplow the lot.
Well, you're in a really big truck, Tom.
I thought you were implying that Tom was the guy with the bat. That's where I think we're going with that.
So that's all I've had. We're
All right,
working on it.
now, but we're
And
gonna
of
have to
course,
discuss.
before you pull the
There's no
trigger on it, we'll
guarantee.
show you guys.
There's no, I think it's a long shot that JCPenney would fund what is essentially a,
I think they would fund it a little easier now. I think
Well,
the time is
okay.
right.
We might get the polls out of them, that's about it.
well, by the way, speaking of Rob Walton, and Nancy reminded me, Rob Walton from JCPenney, who's our area rep, and he's the area rep for about 30 towns, will be here at the March 28th meeting.
Use the mic.
He wanted to try to be here tonight, but he has so many towns. He'll be here, March 28th meeting. So Tom, be there then, so you can talk to him.
Okay.
And
the
floor's
other
yours.
thing I'd like to say is just, not stepping on, but adding to your compliments to this town. You guys did a great job. Couldn't get off my block until Saturday, late afternoon. So I was watching you and the hostile people, because everybody wants to be out and free. The fellow on Doherty Avenue.
Oh, my goodness.
Same, you know, but if it was correct, New Jersey was hit hardest, and in New Jersey it was Morris County that was hit hardest. In Morris County, it was Long Hill Township that was hit hardest.
In Quinn, Riley, we kind of skated. Riley, we only had 430 outages.
Okay.
Randolph had 7,000. And Sussex County was just destroyed. That was in Riley. In Quinn, it's absolutely true. We suffered a little bit more than some of the others. Although Morris Township, I think, had 1,200 people go down today because there were more repairs. Look, this isn't who suffered more kind of thing.
No, just there was more burden on
Oh.
everybody in this township than was generally seen elsewhere.
And thank you. You reminded me, there were 2 miracles in this town. Anybody who saw the photographs of the car up on Long Hill, it's unbelievable. The person got out of the car on their own. And there was, I didn't want to, I won't mention exact addresses, but a lot of people saw the photograph of the house on Doherty. And what I did not know until I spoke to the owners, the husband was on the porch with a snowblower, blowing snow. So he didn't hear the thing coming. For whatever reason, divine intervention, he looked up at the last minute, dove, hurt his wrist, and branches hit him, but the two large limbs surrounded him. Didn't hit him, crushed the snowblower, went into the living room where his family was, or where the family was inside. So as far as I'm concerned, Long Hill Township was very blessed during that storm. Actually, was the tree that fell on Long Hill, was the snow, or was that Riley?
It was Rayleigh.
That was Riley, that's what I thought. It was Friday, and then came the thing, so it's just unbelievable.
People got lucky.
Thank God.
There's a lot of weird trees that fell and stopped like right at the house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw a lot of that.
In some ways, this is an awful thing to say, you know, we don't want anybody to get hurt. As we all well know, we've become experts on this. From an insurance perspective, you're better off if it hits structure. And insurance companies, and Jack and I went over this, structure's not just a house. It could be a fence, swing set, doghouse count? And then the insurance company covers the removal of the tree. So during Sandy, I had, I don't know, 9 trees, 8 trees come down, 4 of them hit the house. You know, $4,000 or whatever it was, insurance company covered it. The others, not so much.
Not so much. Hope you like them down there.
Anyway, Tom, thank you. Anything, look,
No, that was all.
you're always gracious when you come here, so please come more often. Get a Facebook account, and, you know, you can post on Facebook nice things, too. You know, if anybody who realized that I was thoroughly incompetent on Facebook, I am. I only have it so I can stalk my daughter. That's the only-
Your daughter, too. Okay. Well,
Thank you.
thank you all.
Tom, thank you.
Thank you.
And the other members of the public? Seeing none?
To adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Oh, geez. I know. Sorry.
12.